Travelers on the Omnibus occasionally touches on mature subject matter with mature language. As such, the audience discretion is advised.
Welcome to Travelers on the Omnibus, the show that tries to answer the question, is eggs meat? My name is Brady Davis.
I'm Jody Kite.
I'm Ethan Skinner.
I'm James McCarthy. Eggs is meat. Eggs is meat. Eggs is meat.
There's one
Eggs
vote.
is meat.
If you wait long enough, it's definitely meat.
Yeah.
Like after a period of time.
Yeah.
It's definitely protein.
Yeah. So we've got that great mystery settled for you. Ethan, what have you been doing?
Hang on, I'm still processing the question.
No. We don't have time.
We're well past
We don't
that.
have time. We did like
minute.
a 3-hour episode last time. We got to speed things up.
Wait 17 minutes and then answer, and then I'll just cut that for an extra bonus episode.
Okay, gotcha.
That's how it'll work now.
Honestly, my life's been kind of boring the past week.
Boo! I'm
Just
kidding.
this past
Damn,
week,
okay.
though.
Just playing more Persona 5 and some developments at work, and that's all I will leave at.
Hopefully positive.
He walks with the day people now.
Oh,
he's a day walker.
He's a day walker.
I'm with the normies of the world.
Oh, man.
There you go.
How does it feel to be amongst semi-competent people?
I've seen the sun more than I have in the past
I've seen the sun.
Yeah.
You just stop.
You had to pause to remember what the word was.
Yeah.
I've driven on I-10 during the afternoon.
Oh, you poor stupid bastard.
Yeah.
I've forgotten what it felt like.
Terrible. That's the answer.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah, that's me.
Do you have any Persona 5 things that happened?
Any interesting things without spoiling, because I still need to play this fucking game.
I'm at a part where you have to solve puzzles, and the way that you have to solve the puzzles is pretty unique and neat.
That's cool.
Yes.
All right. So now that we've got that snooze fest out of the way, Jody, what have you been doing?
2 things that I can remember, because my brain is like a sieve. It's full of holes. So I built a new magic deck for Commander last week. I can't remember the name of the card because my brain is like a sponge.
We've narrowed it down. It's not a swamp.
Yeah.
It's not a mountain. It's
Right.
not lightning bolt.
Yep.
We know it's not those 3 cards. Before we started, we narrowed it down at least a little bit. So we've got that.
It's a blue-white flyer. I think it's a bird wizard, and
Oh shit, a Bizzard.
it's a bizard. And I want to say the commander costs like somewhere between 2, 3, and 4. So it's 3 and 4. So what he does is when you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you create a 1/1 soldier token.
Okay.
So you would think it would create a flying bird token, but that would be a little too busted because this dude's uncommon. So, power creep and everything like that. So that seems kind of like mid, right? It's like whatever.
I mean, there's the mono blue dude that, cast an instant sorcery, make a 2/2 flyer.
Yeah, that guy is okay. This guy is better because I can skull clamp these 1/1 dudes.
True.
Skull clamp's in there. Skull clamp's an equipment where you pay 1 and the equipped creature gets like -1 to its toughness. And when it dies, you draw 2 cards. So you just put it on a 1/1 and you just draw 2 cards.
Yeah.
And drawing a magic or any card game really is stupid. There's another dude in there that says whenever I cast an instant or a sorcery, I can tap 2 dudes and draw a card.
Okay.
So I can stack the triggers where like I cast it, make the dude, then tap the dude, then draw the cards. So it's pretty fun. Like I'm working on it. It's been something different. I normally don't play blue and magic because it's usually boring and slow.
Do you have the dude that says when a creature with toughness 1 enters the battlefield, you can pay 1 and draw a card?
Yeah, Mentor of the Meek. Yeah, I have that guy. It's like when a 1/1 enters, pay 1, draw a card.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's got a lot of synergies with drawing cards.
Well, with the 100-card deck, yeah, you definitely want
Right.
either to pick out what you need or just be able to draw to it.
Yeah, and blue likes drawing cards,
Blue white likes strong.
and then white likes cheap spot removal. So and it's got a lot of that too, and it's got a lot.
White
of,
also likes to just basically tell people you don't get to play.
Well,
No.
I like to build my blue-white decks or my white decks in general were I let you play whatever you want and then I get rid of it. So for Jay, because he played Magic back in the day, do you know what Settle the Wreckage does?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a card called Settle the Wreckage, and basically what it does is it's an instant speed, which is really good. Board wipe. So whenever they attack you, for all attacking creatures, you exile all of them, and they get basic lands into play tap from their deck. However, in EDH, sometimes people don't play a lot of those, so you just basically like get a 2-for-1 there, and they don't get any value out of it whatsoever. And there's a couple other removals that do similar things or whatever. So I played that, and I had some fun with it. I think I won like a game out of maybe 5, but I just put the deck together. So. And so, me and my buddy Nick, we've been getting back on the Minecraft server, and he helped me just a little bit. I say a little bit because the giant deep slate castle, at least the structure of the outside of it, is completely built now. Jay,
Yes. No, I was on for about 10 minutes.
right? You took a look at it.
Yeah. So I'm liking what everything's being developed.
Deep slate in Minecraft takes a little bit longer to mine than most of the other stones in the game, which takes you even longer to grind out blocks on that.
Yeah, you got to get down there first.
And
it starts in the lower like third of the map.
So so I measured the like the length and the width of the structure I built, and it contained the floor by itself contains 11,099 blocks.
Wow.
So we had to collect I collected like 10,000 of those. Like he helped me a little bit, but I was already pretty much like almost done with it. Like I had a road and a gigantic sand mountain that you heard me talk about before, and then put the structure there after that. And then last night we decided, you know what? We want to try and get some stuff together. So we needed to go to the Nether, which I had not been on the Nether in the server, and that is the Upside Down. And we immediately got lost and died with all of our gear, which was like enchanted diamond armor. Ooh. And we lost all of our experience points.
And then after a while, you can't even Sherpa find that shit because it's just gone.
It's gone for it. We just gave up on it. So it's like we're not starting over because there's still a lot of stuff, back on the regular realm or whatnot.
And if you guys need to rebuild stuff, I still got a good storehouse of stuff in the old castle.
Well, Nick says he's going to work on a mob farm to make XP a little bit easier to grind up because we're starting from 0 and we have to enchant armor again. And the thing that sucks is like I just wanted to go in the Nether and like fight some gas and get some blaze, and they just weren't.
I don't like how our gates spawned. Where they spawned to.
Yeah.
Even with the small little buildup there around them.
It's dangerous.
It's super dangerous. It's super dangerous and super precarious.
Dude, the pig dudes are fucking ridiculous. They spawn so frequently, and there's like 20 of them over and over again. So we died and got off the game immediately afterwards. Separately, we didn't cuss each other out, or anything like that because nobody's fault.
That's a healthy thing. You walk away.
Nobody's fault. I was aggravated at the time, but I wasn't aggravated at Nick. I was like, it's mostly my fault that we're here. And secondly, it's just a game. So that's pretty much it. Like I'm sure I did something else, but that it's fine. So
Jay, what have you been doing?
The Legend of Zelda: The Tears of the Kingdom. The great Korok hunt continues. Count 343. 657 more to go.
Jesus Christ!
If you don't like sightseeing, don't do this. Just don't do it. They did a very good job in creating a world that has some really cool, like not even like the big like landmark stuff like Castle Hyrule, the Great Deku Tree, stuff like that. Just some of the vistas that you see, like you climb up the top of this hill, you find this Korok, and then you just take a moment to just kind of look out and like the artistic direction in this game is second to none in my opinion. Like technically, obviously there are way better games. Like I would put like both God of Wars just hand over fist are way better from a technical standpoint because the movement is more fluid. I believe it's actually at 60 frames per second. So there's this more, and there's depth of field there that I think that is in there. But for Zelda, I don't think there's much in this generation. For me, I don't think there's anything in this generation that cuts as beautifully as the way this game does, especially when you get a chance to just sit for a moment and just kind of take in everything. If you don't like sightseeing, I mean, you go further. Don't even just do the Korok hunt. Do not play Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild. If you cannot appreciate these areas, you're not going to like the game because this world is expansive. It's as expansive as the old one. It doubles in size once you go into the depths, and you also have the Skyfield as well.
To a lesser extent, back when the original version of the game came out, Shadow of the Colossus, there's a lot of that going on there.
Oh yeah, Shadow of the Colossus was just kind of riding around and seeing everything, and then fighting 13 bosses.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I'll definitely co-sign that as well. And also, real quick thing, thanks to one Brady Davis, I am finally in possession of Cat Daddy himself, Lionel Johnson, Primarch of the Dark Angels.
Wasn't that guy hard to get?
So when he originally released, you actually couldn't buy him alone. You had to buy him and 3 of his Blade Guard attendants, basically, basically his entourage. And that sold out in like half an hour worldwide.
Wow.
Anytime any of the main Space Marine Primarchs have ever gone on sale, they've sold out very quickly. This second batch, which I had Games Workshop email me as soon as this thing's available. I wake up the email, hey, Lionel Johnson from your thing is available. And I say, oh, cool. Go on there, sold out. How long did this take? 1 hour.
Yep.
Just they immediately
bots and scalpers.
Here's a rack. Boom, they're all gone. Monday, I get a text, and it's at James McCarthy. I was like, well, wait a minute, this is important. It's from the Minimen, our miniatures gaming group. It's from Brady, and it's a picture of Lionel Johnson. Before he could even say, it's like, hey, I was like, buy it. Just buy it. I will pay you back later. It's like, and so now it is in my possession. I still owe Brady $30 American so that he can then pay off Jason for getting him the Necropolis Stalkers that he just got.
Which are also hard to find.
Right.
Late stage capitalism at its finest, ladies and gentlemen.
That guy's like $70, huh?
$70.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, in 40K, the Primarchs are like the main guys of each of their legions. Like they were each made, and then the legions were made from them. So these are like the cream of the crop of their specific legion. They're the sons of the Emperor. So they're like, and the Lion in the game is in lore and in the game is a fucking beast.
Yeah. I mean, it's a demigod walking among
the Primarchs are basically demigods. Yeah. So
I read his story. So they also came out with a novel at the same time about
That's
him.
nice.
Because he's been buried at the center of the last remnant of his dead planet for 10,000 years, and then he just wakes up in a forest. It's like, what the fuck's going on? And then as you find, spoilers, I apologize, but this one you kind of find out kind of early. He just has the ability to teleport wherever bad shit's happening.
Yeah.
Oh.
Huh.
So he doesn't have that rule in game, but he just has that in story.
So at the end of, at the beginning of the 40K timeline, where like the game, the actual physical game starts, there are no Primarchs. All the Primarchs are the good Primarchs, at least, are gone. And we don't know where the bad Primarchs are, but we know that they're alive. But they're pretty much all dead-ish, or in some state of dead. And a few have, 2 good ones have came back, and several of the bad ones have shown up. And he's the latest one to have a really fucking cool model.
Yeah. The rumor is the next one is going to be another Chaos Primarch. This time I think it's going to be Fulgrim.
It's
that's
probably
what the arrows are pointing to.
That's the next one, because that's the only Chaos God aligned Space Marine Chaos Space Marine chapter that isn't a full army and doesn't have their Primarch back.
Imagine the War for Heaven, where half of the angels stayed good and half of them turned evil.
Right.
The evil ones are the Chaos Space Marine Legions, and then the good ones are just the Space Marine Legions, which then became the Space Marine chapters. Not going to dig too further because I don't want to cut another 17 minutes out of this one. So
what group does that guy represent?
He represents the Dark Angels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Dark Angels were the first legion found after the Great Scattering. So he had his 20 sons. Gene's sons, the Emperor of Mankind, and they were sent by Chaos Winds all across creation.
Right.
He was found on the planet Caliban, where he rose to be its king. And the monastic order of warriors that he created then became the Dark Angels, and that they are the first Space Marine Legion to have been found. That's why they are the first. It's also in canon the reason why they're very good at a lot of things, but they don't specialize in anything because they didn't know how many more they would find after them. So they kind of give them, oh, do you like to have like big tanks? Well, we'll give you our biggest tanks. Do you like to have like quick strike ability? We'll give you some of that. You also wanted, so basically they gave them a little bit of everything.
Right.
So that them alongside the Ultramarines are the most utilitarian, I think, of all the Space Marines.
In the lore, real quick, again, I know we don't want to go into 17 minutes. In the lore, were the Dark Angels those dudes that like went down to that planet and just like wiped out everybody? Are they that group, or is that a different group?
Okay,
You have to be very specific.
Yeah.
That happens a lot in
like
40K.
okay,
in the
so
Horus
there's a
Heresy.
term called, and just in 40K, there's a thing called exterminatus.
Right.
Where a situation on a planet has gotten so fucked.
Right.
It's like, well, we could save like 10%, but it would take like way more. Let's just nuke the planet. And so they nuke the planet.
Let's glass the planet.
And
Right.
and it's called
I think like
exterminatus.
in the short we watched, the short animated thing we watched or whatever, the one episode that we watched, the Space Marines, I think the Space Marines called some dudes that they didn't know what they were capable of.
Oh yeah, that one was the people on the planet called for help with some Space Marines, but some Chaos Aligned Space Marines showed up.
Gotcha.
The Iron Warriors.
The Iron Warriors, gotcha.
And they just
They're purgers.
Yeah, they just killed most of the people.
Yeah, they purged.
on top of killing all the
bad guy, quote unquote bad guy.
Dark Eldar.
Yeah.
There are a lot of Space Marine chapters that are basically mirrors of one another. On the good side, you have the Imperial Fists,
Right.
led by Rogel Dorn, who are all about siege warfare, both its commitment and its defense too. And then you have Perturabo of the Iron Warriors, who's just like, hey, we have artillery pieces. Let's just keep bombing it.
Yeah.
Right.
He's the one who basically carried the Horus Heresy because it wouldn't have made it all the way to Terra if it wasn't for him. And then he was
literally no one gave him any credit for it. It's like, I'm out.
Yeah, he was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm good.
Yeah.
Y'all can have the rest of this.
Right.
And then they failed. So yeah.
Yes. There you go. But yeah, so it's pretty good. It's cool to have the Lion now. I will probably go home and put him together immediately.
Yeah.
I still have to finish the models I'm doing for Jason
Yeah, I
and
do
Brady
too.
as far
That's
as our
How many points is that dude?
several hundred mini.
Yeah.
Yeah, which he's easily a large detachment unto himself.
Gotcha.
Just because of
I
what he's
figured.
capable of.
Well, I mean, also being a $70 model, I imagine.
And also, real quick, so that story, like I got it as an EPUB. The main version of it, like the main book of it, sold out. The leather bound with like gold leafed edged stuff
He's
and all
380.
that. 380.
80
yeah.
points.
380
points.
Out
Yeah.
of 2,000 you're allowed to field.
Wow,
that's a good amount.
That's
of
a big
points.
chunk.
That's a sixth of your army. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
I think
So-
Magnus is like 410 or something.
So
like
the
that.
special edition of the book was not sold out.
Sold out immediately. The regular version actually sold out a little bit slower than the other one. But yeah, couldn't get that one.
Right.
The book that had his rules in it, that was, I think it was it was Arcs of Omen 4.
Yeah,
the fourth
Arcs of
chapter
Omen, the Lion.
Yeah. The special edition sold out of it almost as soon as the model did. The regular version of it sold out. They reprinted the regular version. I think it may be available right now. I'm not 100% sure on
I
that.
want to say Pandas. I've seen it there.
Pandas may have
so
it
you
there.
might
Yeah.
want to check.
Is that
there.
where you got this one from Pandas?
No. I got this one from Gamers and Geeks.
Gamers and Geeks.
I went there looking
Is
for.
that why it's only 60 for me because it was 20% off day?
It's now it's only 15%.
Oh, okay.
But
okay.
but yeah. I went there looking for a Magnus and they didn't have it, even though the last time I was there they had it. Apparently there was a run on Thousand Sun stuff. But I got one off of eBay for about that price.
That's
so,
good. That's good. Good stuff.
So yeah. So we'll all have a Primarch pretty
So
soon.
yeah, absolutely. It's very important to have your Primarchs or you suck.
Yeah. Magnus is a beast.
Last bit. I think the next loyal Primarch is going to be Leman Russ of the Space Wolves. If you're gonna
That's
have
possible.
If you're gonna have Cat Daddy, you need to have Wolf Mother. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Yeah. That's probably the most because he's one of the ones that's just not around right now. He's not dead.
He's
just
not around in a way that they can bring him back because some of the and the stories always kind of change a little bit. The one story that I knew of is that the lion and the wolf they were at each other's throats all the time, but ultimately they earned a begrudging respect for one another because they're completely different. Like lion is very like regal, like monastic, very controlled, and then you have Lehman, who is just fun loving almost for as far as a Primarch can be, and just kind of just wants to tear in and just kind of do that. Like he's
also the guy who the Emperor would always send to if he needed like dirty work done.
Yeah,
he's the guy that got sent to bring Magnus back for using magic for fucking up the webway. Man, we're getting into some really deep.
Yeah. I feel 17 minutes coming on right now.
And then he was supposed to just bring him back, and he got tricked, and he ended up just destroying their entire planet.
Yeah,
and that's why
he blew up the Thousand Suns planet.
That's why they fell to Tzeentch.
Yeah. And one of the last stories of him is that he heard that the lion had gone missing, and so he took a whole bunch of his battle brethren and they went into the warp looking for him. So it's the fabled 13th Company of Space Wolves, which have come back, and they're basically just like Viking werewolves.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Sounds kind of sick.
Yeah. But yeah, there you go. Brady, that's what I've been up to, brother.
Thanks for listening to our Hammer Time segment.
Yeah.
Time.
This has been Hammer Time.
Yeah.
Hey, Brady, what have you been up to?
Stop, Hammer Time.
I'm sorry.
None of us are wearing parachute
broke.
pants, so we're going to keep going.
If I was accidentally wearing parachute pants right now, that would be terrible.
Oh yeah, you did ask me that.
Yeah, I know. It's been set up.
That's something I did.
Not a whole lot. I ordered a few things off of Etsy. I've got some actual objective markers coming for us for 40K and Age of Sigmar. They should be here in the next couple of days. I'm excited about those, so we can use like actual good objectives and play the game a little bit easier. Ordered some movement trays because game that I'm going to talk about in just a second that I played on Thursday had a 30-man squad, and that is a nightmare to move around. So I ordered a bunch of those. I ordered some tokens for my Ossiarch Bone Reapers. This is from Age of Sigmar, which is the fantasy 40K basically. And then this last Thursday, we've actually been pretty good at we've been keeping up playing some games every some miniature games every week.
I think switching up the variety has definitely helped.
Definitely. I would be okay with going to like 2 weeks and then 2 weeks. But this is doing fine so far. But we played some Age of Sigmar. I brought Ossiarch Bone Reapers, which is Death and Taxes basically, and then John brought his orcs, or in Age of Sigmar, Oruks. He brought
the big wah.
The big wah.
Wah.
They don't go to war. They go wah.
Hit self with sticks.
Yeah, basically.
Trample people with big monsters.
Big pigs
monsters,
and dragons that look like cabbages.
The cabbage.
I love the
Cabbage
thoughtfulness of there is enough put in the lore that I think it's one of the reasons why I think Games Workshop carries as well as it do, because there's a lot in story that I think can play out well. So Stormcast Eternals, like decked in like golden armor coming down on bolts of lightning from heaven, all the thing. Auric war clans go, okay, well, we're going to insult that. So they paint all of their armor yellow, like stark fucking yellow, just to insult them.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Orcs in 40K are hilarious because if they paint something red, it goes faster. Orc camouflage is just painting them purple because who's ever seen a purple orc? Yeah. So why would you? Yeah.
And also
that is some ridiculousness that I can get behind.
The orcs have a psychic gestalt where as long as they believe it wholeheartedly, it's real.
Yeah.
So like not just the purple thing, but they know that if you paint things like animal skin, it's harder to see. So you have these guys that look like elephant skins on bikes in the middle of a bright orange desert. It's like they should be spotted, but like the Imperial Guard can't shoot. It's like there's something wrong with the scanners. We can't get a lock on them. What the fuck? It just works.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, we played a game. We didn't make it all the way through because we were only in the third of 5 rounds, and it was like 12 o'clock. It was a little after 12, and I was like, man, I can't do the rest of this.
Right.
They go long sometimes.
Well, we're also like we don't play enough, so we're not like fast at the game.
You have to look at the rules cards.
Constantly looking at the rules, having to read, having to remember stuff and constantly forgetting things, important things. But yeah, I had a pretty good time. We called it, I think we were about even, but there was some rules on the mission that we forgot to play. Excuse me. But I think looking at it, I was probably eventually going to win because there was no way he had like his big dragon guy and then two smaller dudes called war chanters, and I had everything but one unit still left, because the whole thing about Bone Reapers is that they're going to take a lot of hits because they debuff you and buff themselves up, and then whatever dies, you just have three or four dudes on there who's just going to bring everything right back. He got my 30-man block of Mortek Guard, which are like basic troops, down to one guy, and I was going to bring back at least 6 of them. And then they blew up on his one dragon and killed him. So because they don't have any way to stop what are called mortal wounds, which means you don't get a save on them.
Right.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying Age of Sigmar. Since the Bone Reapers finally got a new book, and they're actually pretty strong. They've got some really cool models, and they've got some really cool like abilities. They're a very tactical army where they have tons of these commands that they throw out that let them do all kinds of different things. You just have to kind of keep remembering them. But yeah, I'm having fun with them. I've built a couple of other lists. I've even built some because there's a new General's Handbook, which is like a new season where they change up some of the rules, and this one's based on like magic. You get these really cool things called primal dice, where usually if you go to cast a spell, it has a casting value, like say it has a casting value of 5. So on 2d6, you have to just roll a 5 or higher. But then somebody, if they have a wizard that's in range on the other side, they can try and unbind it. They just have to roll higher than what you rolled. But now they have primal dice where you can get a couple of extra dice per round, where they can add those on. So after I've rolled it, say I need a casting value of 5, and I roll 2 2s, well, then I can add this other dice in and roll it and see and try and add more to it. And the same thing can be done with somebody that's unbinding, so you can kind of save them more with that. But if any of those if any 2 of those dice show a 1, then normally you just take D3 mortal wounds. But with this, you take D3 plus 3 mortal wounds.
Ew.
And then everything within 3 inches of you takes D3 mortal wounds, and you can't cast anymore for the rest of the round, for the rest of the turn.
Again, ew.
Yeah. So there's some risk and reward. Like there was a couple times where I had a 1 on my die, and I was just short, and I was like, man, but if I roll a 1, I'm gonna blow up bad. So, and I
don't know if I apologize if I missed this part of it. This scenario is going to be for a full year. Normally the switchovers are like every 6 months. But this is going to be a full year, so we're going to like wizard units in Age of Sigmar are probably going to be very potent for a while, to the point where I feel that like you're going to see runs on the wizard units before you see any other kind of hero units.
Anything that has like a wizard unit in it is going to be like big. Is gonna and smaller wizards where they're like small wounds. They're not a named person either. They're going to be really helpful because they also there's some new spells that they can get now if they're that smaller wizard, which are really 2 of them are really good. One can buff up your guys, and then the other one, while it's really hard to cast, can do 4d6 mortal wounds, which is a lot. Like usually you don't get that many. So I'm really looking forward to it. Like some of the scoring things are like really hard to do, so it's going to take a lot of getting used to, and it's going to be harder for Bone Reapers because they don't have really good tactics in the book to score. But I'm looking forward to this whole season. I'm definitely wanting to play Age of Sigmar a lot more. But yeah, so there's that. Then the last thing I want to talk about real quick, because I can't get too much into it because I've just started it. We were talking earlier about some analog horror stuff. And I started a book, actually, that I think would fall under analog horror. and it's a book called House of Leaves. Has anybody heard of this?
I think I've heard of it. It's a very like the structure of the book itself is different.
Yes, yeah.
The name sounds very familiar.
So I'm only a couple of chapters into it, so it hasn't gotten like really weird. But it starts out like in this just like it's being typed, and it's of this guy who a friend of his, a neighbor in their apartment complex, this old man dies. And inside they find this this manuscript from a movie about a movie that he's never heard of about, and then it goes into, and the guy's like, this shit fucked me up, basically, and then it goes into the actual manuscript, which is about this movie of this man and his family move into this house, and the house. Not to sound like Doctor Who, but it's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. Like it starts with them talking about this like YouTube video, basically. And I think this was written before but this like internet video, because they actually talk about it being passed around on VHS,
Right.
Of this like 5-minute video where there's this door to this black hallway. But then he crawls. But then it shows him like stepping out, like crawling out of a window, and then going around his house to where that hallway would be, showing that, and then going through another window, showing that there's no way that this hallway can be here. And then there's this other videotape that shows up a little bit later of like really weird shit happening, and supposedly as you go through this book, and there's like weird footnotes where this guy will talk about like things that don't actually exist, these books and everything. So far, the only really weird thing is anytime the word house, even if it's connected to another word, is in there, it's colored blue. But it's supposed to be as it goes, the book deteriorates and changes.
Yeah.
And the experience that you get from it gets weirder as it goes.
I saw a page from it a long time ago, and it was like, it had like at the top of the page, it was normal. And then in the middle of the page to the bottom of the page, the words shifted from being horizontal to vertical. Yeah. And things like that.
Yeah. So I've heard things about this, and I found they got it at Barnes and Nobles, and they were having like a sale. So I got it and a couple other things. But yeah, I'm really interested in it. Is that it seems very creepy so far, and it deals with a lot with like the things that it's talking about, especially at the beginning, with these like videos that are just being like passed around, are very analog horror, where it's these weird things happening. So I'm really looking forward to getting through that. I'm just kind of reading it a little bit at a time, but it is sufficiently creepy because there's like I said, there's footnotes so far. Like there's been footnotes, and then there's been and then they'll have footnotes in a different type that are actually the guy from the very beginning talking about like his own footnotes. So he added his own stuff, and it's supposed to get like super complex and super weird with it, and I'm really looking forward to continuing through that. So that's what I've been doing.
Rad.
Cool beans.
Yeah.
Sounds sick.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'll keep everybody updated. So Jay, do we have any feedback?
We have feedback this week, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being passengers on the Omnibus. If you ever need to get in touch with us or would like to get in touch with us, travelersontheomnibus@gmail.com. Again, that is travelers, 1L, on the omnibus @gmail.com. We have one from Lionel Clark, Department Head, Performing Arts, Gaucher High School, and my cousin. Nepotism. Here you go. Greetings, fellas. Love the shoe. I'm pretty sure that's a typo. I don't think he's expressing his love for Reebok. There we go. However,
or Nike.
Cutting the intro short last week was the wrong move. I listened to just about every episode, and the best part of the show is the intro. I especially love that most of the time it lasts about an hour, the runtime of a regular show, and then y'all get into the topic. Don't cut the intro. I love listening to y'all BS. Thanks for posting the cut session of last week. I will be listening to it. Here's an idea for an episode. Call it Intro and BS for an hour and say goodbye. Keep up the good work. P.S. Jody, American Gladiators documentary was awesome. Thanks for the suggestion. Also, get a cat. They can be the most horrifying animals around.
I second that.
Well, we'll start from the last thing. You're welcome. Documentaries, when they're done well, can be very entertaining. Like I said, I think they could have cut a little bit of stuff out there. I love cats. Don't want to own one though.
Yeah.
Very stinky.
Lionel has a cat called Peanut Butter Face. It is a dark calico
Nice.
with like a peanut buttery brown face.
Right.
It is a regal cat.
My daughter just got a guinea pig.
Oh, okay. That's a
And
good
her
one.
mom absolutely hates it.
Me and
Started a gigantic fight. So
Me and Bianca,
that's awesome.
we have 3 cats total, 2 of which I absolutely adore, 1 of which I can give to any person on the street without any care.
Yeah.
What about Pebbles?
Oh, I love Pebbles. Pebbles is
The cat.
Pebbles is my dog, and she
There
has
you
done
go.
no harm.
So you have some of those cats like Michael and his wife got, where they got one off the street and it just like made them miserable, and we kept joking, or at least I kept joking, like, hey, this thing wanted to die and you were
and
you kept it alive,
You
and now
denied it
hates
its
you
one
for it.
joy.
No, Bianca found it and saved it. However, it has caused me hell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
in a way
like
that it has attempted to kill me
there's some
3
cats
times.
around my
Oh, yeah.
around my apartment complex, and I'm like, well, those look like nice cats, but then I think, no, those are gonna be a fucking nightmare.
When Bianca was still living in D'Iberville, in her apartment, there have been many times when I would sleep face up, and I was really bad at
I'm
snoring.
getting Stephen King flashbacks. Continue.
And there's been many nights when I've just woken up and the small little munchkin cat was just sitting in my mouth.
Yeah, trying to take your breath.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
absolutely hate it.
Was that Sleepwalkers? Is that
Cat's
Cat's
Eye.
Eye.
Cat's Eye.
Mhm.
Cat's Eye.
Yeah.
Thinking of another cat movie, I think.
Sleepwalkers is But yeah.
No, Kenma and Beast I absolutely adore.
Mm-hmm.
Kuro I can
Censored.
Oh, there it is.
Censored.
Again, there you go.
To what he said.
Hi, I'm Sarah McLaughlin. Would you like to see these bombed out dogs again? No, no,
Arms
ma'am, no.
of an angel. Okay.
Fly away from here.
To put a note on what he said earlier at the beginning of his
There's
email.
one cat I own that I do not like.
Fuck the cats. We can't
No.
have 3-hour
No,
episodes.
leave the cats alone. Let's talk about some other things. I don't think this will qualify for a rest stop if we keep going on about
Yeah.
cats.
We
Yeah.
can't have 3-hour episodes. Jay's nepotism cousin. We can't do it. We can't have 3 of them.
before the edit, it was clocking in at like 2:40, 2:45.
Yeah, we can't do that.
So it was a conscious effort to, like, especially since one of our main points in the main topic about the last broadcast was the pacing on this thing is wrong. Well,
Right.
if we are giving you a 2-hour and 40-minute podcast, I feel we're pacing ourselves.
I'm
wrong.
gonna like pull back the curtain, just like, it's Oz, and explain to the audience that Jay edits this show every week, and sometimes there are 15-20 minutes that are cut that you never hear again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just sometimes it's stuff where we got to talk out where we're going with the topic.
Right.
A lot let me preface this. I love being able to do this with 3 friends every week. That is and one of the reasons why we turned this first talk, the Warhammer talk, into our first ever omnibus rest stop is because I really enjoyed for the spirit that was behind that. You saw people who have played it regularly that can talk about it. You saw people who don't play it regularly asking questions, getting involved in it. I think it was just one of those kind of cornerstones for us as far as our kind of conversations.
Yeah.
Because we go free range whenever we can. We go tangential. And it's just in that episode, particularly where you have 2 hours, 40 minutes at the very least, something had to go to where we can get it down to a more manageable time, because we did want, especially... I think our last broadcast stuff, where we began that, I think you saw a whole gamut of respect for, but also great disappointment with, amongst all 4 people in here, some more than others. I definitely ask y'all to go back on that, because I think, at least for me, listening back to it, it was one of our better episodes, in my opinion. If I'm wrong, I will leave everyone else to correct me on that.
Yeah, and we also didn't do 20 minutes of material that nobody should listen to but the 4 people in this room.
Yes,
So.
Also true.
Sometimes we have inside jokes that just don't make sense to anybody
Right.
regular.
Right.
It's just how we just go about
Well, that's
doing
one
our
way
stuff.
to put it.
I was trying to deflect stuff. No, and if sometimes the censoring is necessary. There, I've said it.
There we go.
Yeah.
But
There
yeah,
we go.
and just it was again, it was a matter of flow and content.
And pacing.
But at the same time,
Yeah, we didn't make any Holocaust jokes. So,
yeah.
Censored.
Yet Holocaust stayed in. Don't ask me how it works. It's just the way it is. We do have the warning at the beginning of everything because we do engage, in very
Adult
it's very adult
topics.
topics, and we want to make sure people going into it know that you may hear something that might offend you.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to necessarily offend you unless you're an evil motherfucker Nazi, but that's a whole other thing entirely.
Right.
Don't nobody censor that because I don't think anybody wants to have that at this table
Not
censored.
really.
There we
You're
go.
the one-
Nope.
Censored.
Now I have to censor that part because then I've revealed what the censor actually is.
Wait.
Okay.
I may just full on just cut that and not have to worry about it. Jay coming back in 3, 2, 1. So yeah, then that's basically. But again, I loved, and I would see just because this is the first time I kind of had the whole crew back together again. I enjoyed that Warhammer discussion.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
so yeah, I think the passengers would love to hear us about that because Lord knows they've heard about us this week as
Yeah,
well.
I think that there would probably be, and we might have to sit down and think about how much there is. Well, I think that there's probably plenty left. There's of just me and you, you being Jay, explaining like batshit insane 40K lore, or even Age of Sig, just Warhammer lore to these two, and
Hold that thought a little bit
okay,
later,
Mm-hmm.
later
Okay.
this episode.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
okay.
I was also thinking when we were talking about it in the car that at some point, we can use that Rest Up episode as a platform to do another episode about Warhammer at some point in
Yeah.
the future.
Mhm.
And also
As
to
well.
do more rest stops. I like the idea of stuff that kind of breaks, because again, we go tangential. I like the
Right.
idea of cutting some of that off and presenting it by itself without the context of the regular episode around it.
What also leaves us open to not, like, as long as time isn't an issue, leaves us open to not be watching the clock, as it were, to try and, like, keep the what have we been doing down to 30 minutes.
That is something we do consider that, especially for y'all, because we like being around each other.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody stared at Ethan awkwardly.
Oh, what?
There you go. No, it's okay.
There
There we
we
go.
go.
Now,
I looked in his direction. That was
Okay.
enough.
that actually works even better. I
Slight
guess.
glance is all he deserves.
Now we like being around our friends, but sometimes letting that set for 3, 2, 1. But we know a lot of stuff. Even though it's not totally inside jokey, it's kind of we know each other, and so it may not connect with the audience, but
Right.
it's still stuff that we'd like to present to y'all. And so again, I think that was kind of the at least my feeling, my thinking behind that. So yeah,
Well, that being said,
yeah. I think that being said,
Yeah,
that
I
is.
think yeah.
That's all of that. Also, catch us on Saga, Spotify, Apple, Google, and Amazon.
and you can message
yeah,
us directly on Spotify. Take part in any polls we might have.
Take
going
part
on.
in the polls.
Yep. I think that's going to lead us into our main topic. So our topic for today is what I have coined "sell me on it." Oftentimes we can be very negative in life and on this podcast. Lord knows I had enough of that last week. So I wanted to give us a chance to talk about things that we are passionate about, that we feel positive about, but not just anything. Things that also we feel don't get enough love. That the rest of the people listening and the people present with us might not have heard about. Maybe some of these things people have. I know there's a couple of my things that somebody has to have at least heard of it, but maybe not tried it out. And we're trying to sell them on trying this thing out, be it a movie, a TV show, a comic, even possibly music or a band or something. I didn't do anything like that because I still have a mega mixtape in the works. So I wanted to save that, but I didn't bring that to anybody else to knock them out of that. In anything that's like pop culture related or in media that we want people to try, because oftentimes when we do our little things at the beginning, it's things that we've recently done. Well, maybe this is something that we care about, but we haven't recently, rewatched this or gone back to it or anything like that. Or maybe we just didn't feel like talking about it at that time when we did go back to it. So this is what I wanted to bring it and give us all a chance to talk about things. It's basically an excuse for us to talk about things that we like that we haven't got a chance to talk about. So we're gonna basically pitch things to each other to see and afterwards see like, hey, do we sound interested in this? And maybe at a later date, maybe not, depending on how we feel about it, we can come back and say, hey, is there any of this stuff that we talked about that y'all have tried out? So yeah. So we'll get started with who wants to go first? Who feels so passionate that they have this burning in their breast where they have to sing it to the rooftops?
I'll kick it off.
Okay, yeah. I can feel your breast burning from here.
I'll kick it off. Yeah.
The excitement.
That's because his titty's on fire.
This titty is on fire.
Jesus Christ. So yeah. Sell us on something, Ethan.
Okay, so this band called Shinedown is like,
All right, cut it. That's the end of the episode. This
Censored.
This is a quick one.
Censored.
This is gonna be a quick one, Jay.
Censored.
I gotta give you a golf clap for coming out with a bit right at the beginning.
Yeah. That's a good bit.
That is a bit, isn't it, Ethan? That's a bit, right?
Yes, it's a bit. Okay.
Okay.
You caught bravo, because you caught me off guard. I didn't see that. I should have.
Yeah.
I should have.
We should have all seen that coming.
But we walked right into it. God damn it.
That was like a week in motion. So
Yeah, you. 3 months ago, when I came up with this idea, Ethan was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get those motherfuckers."
Get him with Shinedown.
okay, so on a more serious note, in high school, one of the books I've harped on many times with me reading was Aragon. After I had read the first book, my library, they had like issues with getting newer books in, even though it's an older book series. They just didn't have as many resources of getting books. And I discovered a book named Scythe. It is, imagine a future utopia. There's hardly any. Imagine a future where medicine is at its highest peak. There's no one dying of old age, no one dying of ailments, no sickness, no disease that is not curable. If you have such a perfect utopia, how do you control such an overwhelming population?
Yeah.
These group of people, they got together to create the Scythedom, in which they are in control of population control, and instead of like going about murdering people, they have this serene way of gleaning. That's what they call it, gleaning.
Okay.
To where it's not dying and it's not killing. It's more so coming at peace that it is time for you to go.
Okay.
Scythe is about a scythe. That's what they're called.
Yeah.
He is coming to an age to where he knows he's going to retire soon, and what he decides to do is he decides to take up 2 high schoolers to mentor them to become the next lineage of scythes. Doing so, there's a lot of internal political corruption within the Scythedom.
Okay.
There's a little bit of forbidden romance between the 2 protagonists. A little bit of a murder mystery going on. And it enticed me enough to want to continue the series. And I was reminded I want to say a month ago, that the author, who is going to be Neil Shusterman, he came out with an anthology series in November of last year.
Okay.
And so it kind of got me excited about it, because I remember loving the book so much. So yeah, it was one of the things that kind of like kept me interested in reading in high school.
Yeah, there's I've seen this book. It does have it on bookshelves. It has an interesting cover. I've just never like picked it up and like looked at it.
Yeah, the cover is quite literally a robed figure holding a scythe, and
yeah, it does look. It looks pretty. It's very eye catching.
And like I've looked at it. I've looked at this many times, and it's like You can see like within the scythe, like towards where the blade connects with like the actual rod, you see the silhouette of the person in the robed figure, but on the opposing side of the rod, you see the like the silhouette profile of the other protagonist. And so I've stared at it many times. Just remember pulling it out of my book bag during like an extra 15 minutes of class, just reading it.
Yeah. I think I did. I've looked. I saw it and I like picked it up and then I was like, oh, this is kind of like young adult, and that's what kind of drew me away from it. Not that I have anything against young adult. It's just like most of those, I just like don't like. I'm not. I don't want it to come off like I hate young adult or think it's like lesser or anything like that, because I don't. It's just that it doesn't interest me as much, but it does sound interesting. I don't know. Being a book, I don't know when I'll get time, because I've so far.
Yeah.
I increased my pile that I need to read this weekend.
It's just through the roof.
Yeah. So like,
and that doesn't count the role playing game books that we have to go.
But
Yes.
that's a different pile. But it does sound interesting to me. Yeah.
It also it shares at least a little bit. It shares a plot structure with another book / movie, which is Logan's Run.
That was
Yeah.
That's what you were gearing up to say.
Because is it age that determines who gets gleamed?
No. The way that the mentor goes about it, if you look at the total population of people, this percentage of people die of old age. This is before they had all this advanced medicine. This percent of people die during a car accident. This percent of people die for
arbitrary reasons.
Right.
Right.
Like one of the examples in the book is the mentor goes to the high school of one of the protagonists, and he chooses one of the like all-star all-American jocks that he's going to be gleaned. And the protagonist goes like, why him? Why him of all people? He has such a high career ahead of him. And he kind of like broke it down as this kid has been arrested for multiple DUIs, driving under the influence. This percentage of all people die in car accidents. This amount of people in DUI accidents are teenagers. He's within that percentile that he could be one of those.
Oh, okay.
See, now that's a distinction for me from Logan's Run. That
So it's not.
I see it. This is a different look
it's,
at
it's,
it. So,
it's a little bit different. There's almost like a Minority Report-ish kind of like prevent before it happens kind of thing. Not that they're preventing it, but they're using.
Are just trying to figure out if medical stuff.
Yeah.
If medicine wasn't what it was now, what is the likelihood?
Right.
That is very interesting.
That's interesting.
And the way the like political corruption comes about is that's not how all the scythes think.
Okay.
This scythe, I want to say his name is Scythe Faraday. He's the one that's all about statistics. Statistically, he is going to be the next person to die if this occurs.
I wonder if that's a reference to the scientist Michael Faraday. Like
possible.
Could be.
Very logic,
Could
very
be.
reason.
Yeah,
like,
because there is like, what is it, the Faraday principle, but I
Yeah.
cannot remember what it is.
Whereas
because I'm not a math guy.
Whereas there's some scythes within the scythedom that glean out of randomness. And the whole point is scythes have to meet a specific quota at the end of the year to control population, make sure nothing is outgrowing.
Yeah.
So some scythes, they glean over a period of time, whereas this corrupt group, they procrastinate all the time. They party all day long. They do drugs. They don't care about anything. And when it's time to meet the quota, they go out to a large random group of people. Is like, okay, you are all being gleaned. You have no choice in this. And so it's really seeing this two sides of a scythedom. One being with the sincerity of it, the logistic side, and the other more corrupt side is it's completely random. Like these people, and no one has a say. It also has to me, like a profound saying, like no one has their own say as to when they die. But the fact that this corrupt people will just go about and say, hey, I don't like you. it's time to be gleaned. Like it's something about like the new people that are being raised up going against the corrupt force.
Yeah, that's interesting. I will say this now that I'm thinking about it. I might not ever get to this book, but something that I am going to probably seriously think, because I like to get my kids like at least a book for Christmas every year. And this might, and I've been trying, and I basically think like the whole year through of like, okay, what am I going to get each of them? And I'm thinking this might be on the list of like things to get for my daughter, because she likes like young adult type books.
Oh, this is very, very young adult.
And if you like that, you might like Logan's Run, the book. The movie may or may not like hit with you, but the book is very similar. And
Is Logan Run? Does that have Schwarzenegger in it?
No, that's
no, it's Hopper. No, yeah, Hoffman, Dustin Hoffman.
No. Logan's Run is, God, I can't even remember his name, but the notion of Logan's Run is people don't get to be old. There's this thing called carousel that once everyone has a red light installed in their
they have hand. A gemstone. It has different colors throughout your age.
And when it lights up, I'm talking more about the movie here.
Right,
And when it starts blinking, you have to go to carousel.
Right.
Which means that if you get through carousel, you get to go on. But pretty much everybody that goes to carousel dies. So it's really just a matter of population.
You're
control.
supposed to, you're ascending in carousel, and basically
what do they call old people? Silver hairs, I think. Because
remember.
The notion of people being old is just not
because
there.
You don't live past 30 in Logan's Run. That's how they eliminate all issues with money, poverty, with population control. When you turn 30, that's when you're supposed to go to carousel. And what they have, as far as like in Scythe they have scythes. In this they have sandmen, which basically they're the police, army, whatever you want to call it. So if you're a runner, like it's time for you to go, and you decide you don't want to go to carousel and you run, that's when they come after you.
Gotcha.
So
and the movie and perhaps maybe the book is this weird blending of late 60s hippie philosophical aesthetic mixed with hard fucking science fiction.
Yeah, and,
hard science
totalitarianism, fiction. Totalitarianism for sure. Yeah, Michael York. That was
Michael York.
Yeah, Michael York.
And I can't remember his name. He played Duncan, Idaho in the '84 Dune. He played the senator.
Oh, the old man.
Yeah, and he played the senator.
That's his character's name is the old man. Yeah, I think
he played the no. It's the runner that's going after Michael.
Oh, the runner. That's right.
He played the senator in The Hunt for Red October.
Right.
I can't remember. Richard Jordan.
There
Thank you.
go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I like the movie.
Right.
To me, it's a very fun movie. Again, it's hippie aesthetic meets hard science fiction.
To me, the book's better, of course, because the movie is a little like dated and cheesy. But
and also, it substitutes imagery for storytelling.
Right.
For a lot of points, like why do we have to like? It's just if you get old, you go to carousel. Like there's a little bit more to it in the book. Though I have not read the book, to be fair, but it definitely, as most books do,
it's implied enough in the movie where you get what's going on.
Yeah.
As far and the main character played by Michael York. I'm not going to give any spoilers away for what goes on in that story.
I'll spoil something. His name's Logan.
His name is Logan.
Is he running?
It's his run.
Well, he is.
Shit.
I mean, he chases runners. He is a Sandman.
So Logan is Sandman.
The spoiler is built into the title.
Yeah, pretty much.
He eventually runs.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same thing. Was that we're getting off topic.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Scythe.
Scythe. So that does sound interesting. And like I said, if I don't read it myself, that is definitely something that I'm going to think about when Christmas time comes. Seeing getting it for my daughter. So does anybody else who wants to be next?
I'll go next.
All right.
Okay,
go for
Jody.
it.
All right.
Jody.
So I decided to go with a music theme for this idea I had, and so to try and get people more into a genre of music I like, I'm going to try and go through as quickly as I can the small bits and pieces of the history and why I like listening to punk rock music.
Oh, okay.
Or just punk rock, the genre in of itself.
Punk rock, the genre.
Okay.
All right. And so I'm gonna start with what is considered the before, which is Iggy and the Stooges. The album is Funhouse. It's from 1970. If you like hard rock of any kind of nature, it's a little like that, but the themes are a little darker. There's a song on there, one of the most famous song from Iggy and the Stooges, "Now I Want to Be Your Dog," which you hear that in Trainspotting.
Oh yeah,
it's been in a couple of different movies. Punk rock proper starts in 1974 with the Ramones' first self-titled album, The Ramones. It's very inspired by 60s doo-wop and beach music. It's very up-tempo. It's got a beat, and you can dance to it. Then you jump over
that's the one with Blitzkrieg Bop and
I think that's on Rocket to Russia.
Okay, and
that's their album
that has the other one that's really goddamn.
They've got a few.
I Want to Be Sedated.
I Want to Be Sedated. I think that was one that came out in the 80s, actually.
Okay, well, shit, I don't know anything then.
But yeah, so the Ramones was 74. Then we jump over the pond to the Pistols. Malcolm McLaren, a promoter, if you want to call him that, went over to New York and saw the Ramones and said, "Hey, I know how I can make money off of my shop that sells sex toys. We'll start punk bands." And so he hired a bunch of street hooligans and a couple of guys who could actually play instruments and formed the Sex Pistols. Didn't pay them any money. And Sid Vicious stabbed his girlfriend when he was high on heroin. And, the funny thing about...
and John Lydon was just angry all the time.
John Lydon was angry all the time. So the Sex Pistols come out in England at a time where people don't realize the historical significance of everything that's actually happening with the government and environment. At the time when the album came out, the garbage men went on strike. So there was trash in the street. Nobody had any money, and the reason why punks over there wore clothes with like pins and safety pins through them to hold their clothes together is because they couldn't afford clothes, and so they were poor. And so most of their songs were about how much they hated the government. And there's actually a song on that album. It's called "Nevermind the Bollocks," by the way. It's an anti-abortion song called "Bodies." There's a line that says like, "Mommy, I'm not an animal." So that's it's some pretty harsh stuff, especially for 1975, 1976. Then in the late 70s, we start having like proto new wave bands start coming out, but at that time there were still punk bands coming out. So the Misfits came out in like 77, 78. With a more horror punk theme, and they
Misfits is what, Danzig?
That's Glenn Danzig's original band with Jerry Only and Doyle Frankenstein. Holder's
listening to this right now is just smiling. I have to imagine.
The Misfits had a song called what was the name of that song? They had a song called Horror Business. And it's it's called Too Much Horror Business, Driving late at Night, Psycho 78. They're talking about Psycho Sid Vicious. There's a line in the song called and he says it's like, "You don't go in the bathroom with me. I'm warning you. I'll stab you. I'll put a knife through you," which is what happened when he stabbed Nancy Spungent, Sid Vicious's girlfriend. So they sung about the Kennedy assassination and fun little hits like that. However, unfortunately, due to money and things of that nature, the recording quality of the Misfits' first album is not the best to listen to because it's just the quality.
Some might call that endearing.
It can be. It depends on what you want.
That it's coming out
what you want. It depends on what you want. Then we jump to California in the late 70s, early 80s. In the early 80s, California comes out with Black Flag, and then a couple years later, you get the Dead Kennedys, which Black Flag again very hard thrash punk.
Black Flag is.
Henry Rollins was their third singer and their best iteration of the band, actually. Black Flag is pretty decent, depending on what song you listen to. Dead Kennedys, pretty much everything they did was like anti-establishment, anti politics and things of that nature. Giallo Biafro, their lead singer, is hilarious in interviews. You should definitely.
A lot of punk interviews are hilarious or incredibly awkward.
Right,
That's usually the two.
Sometimes both at the same time.
Oh yeah.
So
there's a Sex Pistols one that I watched.
Oh yeah, where they say like "fuck you" and all that to the guy.
He started talking to like the ladies that were with them,
yeah,
and like disparaging them, and they really started.
My
Ooh,
favorite,
man.
just recently, my favorite punk interview was with John Lydon, and it only came out recently, like within like the last like maybe like 5 or 6 years, but it was done like the late 70s, early 80s. And they were talking about Jimmy Savile. And Jimmy Savile, if you want to be, I know this is a positive thing, and I will get back onto that. Yeah. Jimmy Savile was a fuck. He was one of the biggest hosts on British television called Jim Will Fix It.
He was a big ass celebrity in Britain.
He was a big celebrity. He was big in the music scene. He was also a professional wrestler for more than just one cup of tea. He was also a predator and a creep.
Right.
And John Lydon, and it was a kind of a known secret amongst the basically amongst the music crowd that Jimmy Savile was this. And he's talking with a BBC reporter, and he's even saying in the interview, which again was like late 70s, early 80s, that don't worry, dear, no one's going to let you publish this interview because they're going to comfortably bury it. Like 25 years later, John Lydon's on another talk show in the BBC, and they play that, and you can actually see John Lydon moved for the fact that the truth actually came out. And so I the reason why that just kind of like again when you mentioned the Sex Pistols and all that, but mentioning also that kind of spirit of punk, like John Lydon is a true punk to me because he was not afraid to speak truth to power. He was not afraid to be awkward when situations would call for quiet obseescence as far as that goes. And no, he even to this day, like he will still like rattle a cage or two because sometimes cages need to be rattled. So I just want to say quickly that that's one of the reasons why I love John Lydon. Right.
Lydon's great. The Savile stuff didn't come out until Savile died. Because
literally the day after.
Right. There's a Netflix documentary. There's 2 parts. I watched the first one, the second one I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on to more positive things. So Lydon actually formed Public Image Limited after the Pistols ended in the early 80s. It's very interesting new wave pop kind of stuff. It's all right. Then the Misfits broke up in the early 80s because Jerry Only and his brother Doyle wanted to make money because they didn't make any money as the Misfits, and so they worked at their father's machine shop. Also, Glenn kicked them out of the band because they were doing way too many drugs and weren't being productive. Okay. And he said in an interview shortly after that, if they would have just fucking practiced more, they could have been in Sam Hain, Glenn Danzig's next band, which was like more in the metal genre before he went solo with Danzig. A lot of bands broke up because they didn't make any money. Of course, that's just the way punk is. A lot of bands sold out and tried to make money and didn't make money because they sold out because they lost the original fan base and they couldn't get any new fans, TSOL. That was the name of one of the bands. Agent Orange also sold out. Then there's like, pretty much like no punk music from like 1986, 87. All right, hold or kill me if I don't mention this. Yes, Circle Jerks that's a California punk band from the early 80s also. Pretty good stuff. All right, there was pretty much...
kept this from an email.
He's still going to message us. Or he's going to tell us to our face.
Yeah. There's plenty of bands I glossed over because there's a lot, but I did want to say this real quick. So, there's pretty much like, with the exception of very like, unknown kind of bands for almost a decade. And then you have like a ska band, Poison Ivy, and then they turned into Rancid, which Rancid is a punk / ska hybrid. Rancid's okay. Poison Ivy's okay. And of course, you have the Boston punk bands like Dropkick Murphys or Irish Punk and things like that. But they're a little bit later on down the road. In the mid-'90s, the Misfits rebooted with a new singer, Michael Graves. And their first album came out, I think, 95. It's called Famous Monsters, based off of Forrest Ackerman's magazine, Famous Monsters of Filmland. The Misfits are always about like just niche, kitschy, like 50s and 60s atomic age aesthetic when it comes to different stuff. It's not until their album after that, though, American Psycho, named after a song that's named after the movie,
Okay.
that came out in 97, both the movie and the song and the album came out in 97, where they go more into the thrash punk, hardcore punk aesthetic. And that's the album that I like to show to people who like metal, because if I'm going to get you into the Misfits, we can start from there and go backwards, because some of those songs are bangers, even though they may or may not be about horror movies. And then you can kind of go back and maybe like, listen to the other stuff, if nothing for just the historical reasons for it. There's the whole pop punk scene that started in the mid 90s too, with No Effects as well. Very fast paced stuff. But yeah, so it's just, just listen to all of it. It's good stuff.
Question from the person sitting across from you. Green Day, how do you consider them?
I consider Green Day a punk band. I consider a lot of bands, like, for example, when we're talking about Ghosts, metal bands can have ballads. Metal bands can have horns and keyboards and things like that. And I think punk's allowed to do things with a lot of different variants, because you also have ska, which is very back and forth with that as well. I think Green Day, like, September Ends and Time of Your Life, which I think Time of Your Life was still kind of early in their
Yeah.
That was Nimrod.
That was Nimrod.
Yeah, that was Nimrod.
Yeah, that's early enough. And then I think they revitalized their whole like hardcore punk aesthetic with American Idiot. I think that whole album is amazing. It's probably their best, really, as whole album.
That's my favorite of theirs.
As a whole album.
Because when I've been asked before about Green Day, and some people like they're not punk because they sold out, I feel that their sound evolved, and I think they evolved for the most part naturally. I would argue against the year, was it like 2019 or 2018, where they did 3 albums called Uno Dos Tres. And they did 3 albums in a year.
I don't remember.
I think made it completely. Like,
I don't remember the years, but I remember those albums.
But I remember they were just bereft of ideas by the second album.
Well, yeah, that happens.
And so, yeah, it's like that's the only one where I feel like it kind of toes the line towards maybe selling out. But I think for the most part, it's just been an evolution of their sound.
The balance. I want to destroy this whole fucking facade of the balance of like punk selling out, not selling out. The thing is, to get your message across, you have to sell a certain number of records.
Yeah.
And Trey, I think the drummer for Green Day, said it best on the documentary when they were doing like behind the music back in the late 90s, early 2000s, did one on Green Day. And Trey was like, listen, guys, here's how we sold out. We were selling so many CDs. They were pressing their own CDs and records and selling them out of the back of their car. And they would sell out of all their music and people still wanted more, and they couldn't physically make enough albums to sell. So the easiest way for them to get their music out was for them to actually sign to a label. That's they didn't sell out. Selling out is changing your style, whether it be music or appearance. Alice in Chains. They didn't sell their music. They didn't change their music. But my God, when grunge happened, those boys like put on flannel as fast as they fucking could. Nothing against it. But, that's, for my personal opinion, coming from like a punk aesthetic, selling out is changing either the way you look or the way you sound for money. And Green Day did neither of those things. Neither did Metallica, because by the time Metallica was being called sellouts, they had already made millions of dollars. They'd already been there and made their money. They were changing for the sake of changing and evolving for whether it was good or bad. That's why they did it. They didn't do it for money. They already had the money.
Yeah, I've never like been super into into like punk as a genre. So like I don't, when it comes to like the selling out thing, like that's it doesn't, I don't care quite as much,
right?
Because punk is one of those genres that I appreciate way more than I like.
Right.
When he gets to like the pop punk stuff, that was stuff that I grew up with. Like
Right.
that was when I was in high school. That was a big thing.
Right.
So I like that kind of stuff. But oftentimes bands that I do like, when they go more towards the punk side, those are the songs that I like less.
Right.
Like I don't like Green Day's album Dookie. Like I just don't like.
I can understand that.
But it's just because like that punk styling I'm not real big on.
Right.
But when it comes to like selling out and stuff like that, I always think of the Tool song "Hooker with a Penis," where he says, all you know about me is what I sold you.
Right.
Dumb fuck, I sold out long before you ever even heard my name.
Right.
So, but I get what some people are talking about, but I think that they're a little bit too it's a bit much with that. But
Right. Well, again, another issue with it, and this is another thing that was said by one of the members from Green Day on that thing, is like, here's the problem with like selling out, right? Like, you have like a homegrown fan base, right? Let's just say San Diego, California. You have a homegrown fan base in San Diego, California. I'm gonna take like 1 minute on this. Okay, so you play it like 3 different bars, like you play it one week and one the other, and it's far apart enough where you can get people, and they're not going to get burnt out on your music. Okay, you're doing very well for yourself. You're making enough money doing your live gigs. You're selling albums out of the back of your car. You're doing the punk thing. You're not selling out. You're not signed to a record label. One of those bars closes. Now you got 2 bars you got to play at. The other bar catches on fire. Now you've got one place you're playing at. Nobody in the rest of even California knows who the fuck you are. Mm-hmm. And so once that third option goes, then you got to start over, and it might not work out for you. Selling out in punk rock is the stupidest fucking concept. I hate it. I hate it in any sort of art style, because if you're not making money, you can't make your art for long.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that is the society that we live in. Yeah.
That's me.
Thank you for that TED Talk.
Welcome to my TED Talk.
So yeah, like I said, punk is just not one of those genres that I'm like super big into. Mm-hmm. I appreciate it way more than I actually. In fact, it's weird. Like the punk style of like the punk style of like filmmaking, I tend to like a little bit more,
right?
Than just the straight up like punk
guerrilla style of filmmaking. Listen to American Psycho if you can. By the Misfits. American Psycho, 1997.
I might do that.
I'm a bigger fan of California Uber Alles by the Dead Kennedys.
Yeah, California, like that's pure punk. Like hardcore punk is real close to metal. So if you like metal and you're not a big fan of punk, typically, I would say go with the Misfits album, because California Uber Alles is 100% punk rock.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also, Jello Biafra's vocal stylings can get on people's nerves.
Yeah.
100%. You either love Holiday in Cambodia or you hate the fuck out of that
That's
song.
the thing. Like when it comes to and oftentimes when there will be a like I'll warm up to singers oftentimes, but oftentimes I'll be like, okay, this is a really good song, and then like the singer comes on and I'm immediately like,
that happens.
And that happens
to me
a lot with punk.
That happens a lot with me with metal,
because there's a lot of like low, especially like the screaming metal type stuff. But yeah, it's I might get around to trying that. Okay. The Misfits. But yeah. I do like some of like Danzig's work that he did away from the.
Did you ever listen to any of the Sam Hain stuff?
No.
That stuff is pretty good. It's also more geared towards metal. I know Holder. I'm talking to Holder directly. Listen, man. Listen, I love the original Misfits with Glenn Danzig, but I also don't hate Michael Graves. And if I'm trying to get people that listen to metal into listening to punk, there's a gateway here. I'm trying to make a gateway happen here. Trying to sell somebody on something. I can't convince Brady to listen to Glenn Danzig's original recordings with the Misfits, and it sounds like they recorded it in a car trunk.
Yeah, if you like all this stuff, listen to Danzig Does Elvis. That's a great album.
Shut up! No. Wait. Censored. There we go. Okay, fix
that. Shit, I got Jay to do it.
Fixed it.
Don't listen to Project 1950. by the Misfits.
I don't know what the fuck that is.
I'm gonna tell you real quick. It's a covers album where they covered 50s and 60s songs. However, they had fired Michael Graves and Jerry Only, the bass player, was singing, and he's not good. He is not good.
So I guess the only one we haven't gotten any opinions on this is Ethan. So what do you think?
You just yawned. Like I think that might be enough.
It's more so the time of everything.
You're not a night owl anymore. You can't keep up with all
Right.
this.
Oh, you have to walk with the day people.
You're gonna need one of these soon.
Yeah.
Music is more so, it's especially like older music. It's. I see the face you make.
I'm about to go into the grave. Yeah, especially older music from the 80s. Oh, God, no.
I'm talking about 97, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that still qualifies as
I
older
know,
music
I
for
know
him.
it does. Continue, Ethan.
That's history for him.
Yes.
It's not really something I'm familiar with.
Uh-huh.
And so, because my dad, he didn't listen to punk rock. My brother didn't. My mom,
Right,
no.
right. Well,
It's just something I'm not familiar with.
can I tell you something, Ethan?
Go for it.
My mother nor my father listened to punk rock.
Yeah,
I was not showed by siblings any of my music. In fact, I had friends show me things, and that was really the only connection I had.
It's something I'm not familiar
Ethan doesn't have
with,
friends. He just has family members to show us. I'm just picking.
When did
Ethan.
that Shinedown album we had to listen to, was that 2006, 2007, 2008?
That's right on the verge of being ancient.
That's like 15 years ago, man.
I'm picking
Just go
Ethan.
15 more.
We
I'm
did
picking
we
Ethan.
did listen to some proto punk stuff from his second choice though with Rise Against.
Rise Against is more like a post.
That is true. That's it's hard. It's very close to hardcore punk.
Yeah.
Rise Against is
Some of their early stuff is really from Siren Songs of a Counterculture on. It's less like hardcore punk, but like the Unraveling and Revolutions Per Minute are straight
Right.
like some of those songs are like straight up punk songs.
right.
But actually, that's one of those where sometimes I don't like their when they go straight punk. But like sometimes like there's a lot on those first two albums that I really really like. So it's iffy. But yeah, like Rise Against is kind of like like I said, a post punk kind of thing. So if you like them, there might be some stuff in there that you like that you might find that you like. I don't.
It's definitely something I would.
Jody
give a shot.
could connect those two things a little way better than I
Listen
can.
to American Psycho by the Misfits, 1997.
About the Misfits.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and get on my Spotify.
There you go. There you go.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, if like Joey said, if you like metal, if that's interesting,
It's about as close as you're going to get to a metal punk merging. As far as that, and like some Andrew WK songs have like those chord progressions. Are very punk sounding.
I would argue that Motorhead, because we mentioned this before.
Yeah.
They are known as British punk's favorite British metal band.
Yeah. Like a lot of metal bands listed. Well, also there wasn't really that many metal bands that hit that hard in the late 70s.
Yeah.
So a lot of metal bands and a lot of punk bands like Motorhead for that reason, because there wasn't that many bands doing that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's just playing super hard and super fast.
super hard, super fast.
Yep. Good stuff. Is that all?
That's it.
That's your dissertation.
That's my
Okay.
dissertation.
For more info, drive up to Jody's house. Don't do that.
Please don't
do that.
Don't dox me, bro.
So Jay, you want me to go next, or you want you to go next?
How do you feel about it, host and boss?
Whatever.
I can actually get through mine in about maybe 5 minutes.
Okay.
So, okay.
Oh.
So, the year's 1994. Star Trek: The Next Generation has aired its final episode until about 20 years later, when they had their fantastic 8th season, which was known as Star Trek Picard 3. It's actually fantastic. And
I've heard good things about it. I'm just never
ignore
gonna watch it.
seasons 1 and 2. Just
Just watch
watch
the
3. and
third
you're fine.
season.
No, I mean Star Trek: The Next Generation, the season 8. Like, this is basically the way that is. So I was a young boy of 14, just getting out of St. Martin High School's 8th grade, going into 9th grade, the start of the high school years. And I'm a nerd. I need more science fiction. And we're a couple years off from the special editions being in theaters, Star Wars being that in that regard. So there was this action pack. It was basically a 2-hour block of television syndication. And one of them was like some weird shit. I can't even remember it. I think it involved a cop, and he had like a super gun, and that's pretty much all I remember about it. The other part of it was Babylon 5. So Babylon 5, the creative child of one J. Michael Straczynski, who is responsible for some of the really good runs on Amazing Spider-Man in the early to mid 2000s, and which stopped with One More Day, and I'm just going to leave it at that. But he created a fantastic science fiction universe that is the precursor to our serialized American television that we have today, as far as a premise that runs across the entirety of the show and not just kind of an episodic wagon train to the stars, which is what Star Trek was. You see it kind of, in my opinion, also kind of manipulate other things that are going on. Again, in 1994, you had the second season of Deep Space Nine, which itself also went serial. There has been discussion over the years as whether or not Babylon 5, because it was in production hell. And that's one of the things that I love about this thing. They were able to produce 5, in my opinion, very solid seasons of science fiction television with the most amazing amount of just production delays, production mishaps, actors that had to leave for very serious reasons. I won't go into the specifics on that, but they had to change direction as far as who was who and what was what and how to be able to handle that.
That show had a lot of moving parts too.
Yeah. So, and again, because it to me, it is the precursor of American serialized television as far as like going into what would eventually be Battlestar Galactica, Game of Thrones. Things based off of...
I think you could definitely argue like sci-fi fantasy stuff. Definitely.
Yeah.
With heavy hot plot hooks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, went 5 seasons, actually was ended in its 4th season, and then Warner Brothers picked it up and said, no, get your 5th season in. Well, I just ended the stories. It's like, throw another year on there. Okay, I'll do that. And they did. And it was actually a very, very, more than competent, I would say it's actually a very... for lack of a better word, and I'm sorry for the pun, but it was a very stellar 5th season of a show. It would later go on to try to have a spinoff called Crusade, which I think had all the intentions of being very good, and then once again, production values and production problems on the episode ended up cutting its legs up. But, and also another funny thing, again, to kind of go along with production things. So Babylon 5 was on HBO Max. Notice I mentioned HBO Max and not Max, because
Max?
it is not on Max.
Damn.
It is, however, on what I'm now going to call Travelers on the Omnibus's favorite streaming service, Tubi. We watch almost everything we watch on the show off of that thing, so I'm just going to say that right now. But it is on Tubi, all 5 seasons.
Tubi getting the shows.
Yeah.
And honestly, I like it on Tubi because it was made for commercial television.
A TV show that's made with commercial breaks in mind, I could see working on TV.
And so it works very well. I don't want to get very heavy into the plot because it carries across all 5 seasons. That if I talk about one thing in particular,
right.
I will say that this is one of the greatest ensemble casts I have ever watched, period. Like, I mean that for television, movies, things like that. I think this world is very thought out and really believed in. If there are negatives, and some of these may be positive depending on you are, it is the 90s. So it uses 90s CGI. You have to get around that. I think it's good, especially for 90s CGI, especially for the production value and cost that they had to deal with, but I think they did a very good job with it. I've been advised recently that Babylon 5 is actually coming back. There's actually products at work at Warner Brothers right now to do stuff within the Babylon 5 universe.
Yeah, I've heard this going on for a while.
One of my favorite space captains of all time, Captain John Sheridan, played by Bruce Boxleitner. I absolutely love his character. I love what he does in that series. It plays on fate and how fate is kind of created through. Basically, just starts out as an idea and then becomes a rumor, and then the rumor becomes myth, and the myth becomes actual reality, and how it comes about that. It discusses the notion of gods and how just beings that are just far beyond the ken of your knowledge would be gods to you, and they're actually very mortal things that for themselves have very mortal, understandable desires, and how they use basically younger races to try to bring about what they think is a better idea. I would also say that along the same line, if you don't like Star Trek, I think this works out very well. Again, it's not just a collection of, we're going to go here this week and then here this week, and then it's a narrative that runs throughout the entirety of the thing. It's something that you can really sit down and sink your teeth into. If you can't get through the first season, you can stop there. Now, it is an American television show, so we're talking 22 to 26 episode runs per season. So you're looking over 100 episodes for the thing. They're each about an hour long, which for TV time is about 40 minutes. I have always I will accept questions from the audience. Hang on. When I am editing the podcast, I like to put things on in the background that are safe, comfortable, and things that I'm used to. And a lot of the times I'm putting Babylon 5 in the background just to have some other stuff going around that I know isn't going to surprise me with anything, but it's still, but then I'll also catch myself when I'm taking a break, I remember this episode and like catching like 10, 20 minutes of that episode just going on with it. So my suggestion, especially if there's any kind of new stuff coming out for it soon, I would say try out Babylon 5. All right, questions from the travelers.
Does this show also work if you've never seen a single episode of Star Trek?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They make these very sly references to the fact that this other show is going on, because there was a rivalry between the Deep Space Nine crew and cast and the Babylon 5 crew and cast, because one's over at Paramount filming, the other one's over at Warner Brothers, and it's based upon a space station in space and the trials and travails there. They touch on a lot of similar things. I believe Babylon 5 does it better. DS9 did it for longer and without any of the production woes. Like, they went 7 years. Ronald Moore, who was one of the main writers in the writer room, along with Ira Stephen Bear. I hope I got his name right. This is DS9. They eventually would go on to do some, particularly Ronald Moore. He did the remake of Battlestar Galactica.
Okay.
Which is some of the best science fiction also in the world.
Oh yeah, Battlestar Galactica is amazing.
But if you've never seen, I would say if you have never seen any science fiction, Babylon 5 is a good entry point.
It's not bad.
I've heard good things about it. I've just never gotten around to,
I haven't watched
watching
it. I haven't watched it. It's in its entirety, because I would pick up an episode and I wouldn't have any idea what was going on.
Yeah.
And back in those days, forget it.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's where like stuff DVD for one thing didn't exist. And when stuff came out on like tape, on VHS tape, it was spotty at best. Cause like, having a whole season of something on tape was expensive as hell.
Oh yeah.
That was the other thing I wanted to mention. Babylon 5 is finally coming to Blu-ray here in like the next couple months.
Oh, nice.
The entire
Oh.
series.
Oh,
So
nice.
That's
you
cool.
can have that physical media there.
That'd probably be
is
like,
cool.
somewhere between $50 and $80 and have the whole show.
The 90s really were, in my opinion, like, you had some of the best science fiction that came out on television.
Yeah.
There was a remake of The Outer Limits that really delved into horror stuff that was around in the 90s. I thought that was done very well. Again, I mentioned Deep Space Nine. I mentioned Babylon 5, obviously, is the
Voyager also came out during that time period.
Voyager suffered from the early season. Like, Deep Space Nine to me was the only ever completely consistent Star Trek show.
Right.
You look at the first two seasons of The Next Generation, it's like, oh, this thing lasted 2 seasons, never went through it.
Right.
And then it lasted 5 more seasons. It's some of the best science fiction that I ever had. I think cutting off the original series at 3 seasons, I kind of want to imagine what we might have gotten if we'd gotten past 3 seasons.
I think like TNG suffers from like just early Simpsons too. Like, that's the same thing. Like the first couple of seasons were like,
the early seasons of The Simpsons are the best seasons of The Simpsons.
Well, the general consensus is that like after from 3 to like 8 are like the peak. Some people will add in 2. Most people will say like the first season of the Simpsons is very meh.
I would say seasons 7 and 8 of The Simpsons are the best. Period.
Yeah.
I can agree. I can co-sign on.
I personally believe like 2 to 10 are like phenomenal.
I would say it tracked up from season 1, but I also think the quality of The Simpsons was better in seasons 1 and 2 than the quality of The Next Generation was in seasons 1 and 2.
Yeah,
where it's a slow build with The Simpsons, where it's just a stratospheric jump between 2 and 3 for.
TNG also like rehashed a lot of the same episodes, not even plots from the original series.
To get morbid for just a moment,
right?
Roddenberry kind of died after season 2.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm talking about like season 1 particularly.
We had Naked Now. It also had the most racist thing that's ever happened in Star Trek ever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, the series that brought us the first interracial kiss also brought us the first interracial cat fight to get vaccine.
Yeah.
Don't look up that episode.
Yeah, no.
If what I just said was interesting,
Censored.
okay, moving on to somebody else right now.
Okay.
So, yeah. I wrote down a lot of these, but I'm only going to do one or two. So, the first thing that I'm going to talk about is a TV show as well. It is, I guess, technically a science fiction TV show. It is also my favorite TV show. And this is a show that came on HBO. It is called The Leftovers. The premise of this show is one day, exactly 3% of the population just disappears. There's no clothes left behind. It just disappears, and it is all completely random. Sometimes it's old people, sometimes it's young people, sometimes it's the majority of a family. Sometimes it's just a baby in the back seat, just disappears. And it is, and the first season takes place, I believe, a year to 3 years after that. I can't remember. There's some time skips in between the seasons.
I hate to interrupt. This is the Lindelof series, right?
Yeah, this is Damon Lindelof, who was one of the writers for Lost, and Lost has a lot of problems, but this is, I think, some of Lindelof's best work. And the first season, it expands from here, but like the first season, it mostly takes place in a small upper New York state town, where they're and it's basically, it is how people deal with loss and grief. And according to the show, they don't deal with it well. After this thing happens, like, cults start popping up, and there's even this weird cult called the Guilty Remnant, where they all wear white, they don't talk, and they just smoke cigarettes, and they just stand outside of people's houses who lost somebody in the event, and basically until they decide to join the cult. It's super weird, but the main character is the police chief of the town, and he took over from his dad, who after the event goes crazy, and he's kind of going crazy and losing time and waking up and weird things happen. Yeah, and it just grows from there. It's still like the same core people. His family mostly, it makes up the core people, but then they add in people. They go to a different place. Like this, it's different places in each season, and it kind of grows from there. It's only 3 seasons, but it is some of like the most compelling television that I've ever watched. Like really good characters, like you care about all these people, and it's just it's dark, especially like the first season. Most people will say like that's the worst season. It's impossible for me to choose which one is the best season, personally, but I really like the first season as well. If you do like super dark things, it gets that, but there's also like little rays of hope here and there. Now I will say this, you might be thinking, oh, Lindelof, Lost, there's a big mystery box things with this. He doesn't really do the mystery box thing. You don't ever get, I'll spoil it for you now. You don't ever get as to why these people disappeared, or even what happened to them when they disappeared. That's never actually answered, because that's not the point of the show. You get people like, we'll talk about theories and things like that. But you never find out for sure, because the mystery is not the mystery is just a framework to, like I said, deal with how people deal with grief.
Right. It's like how Walking Dead, the zombies weren't really the focus after the first season. It was the backdrop to internal drama between humans.
Yeah, it's basically a catalyst for talking about this issue.
And I would argue that, at least in that regard, that's kind of what you want it to be. You want it to be, the connection there is the human relationships.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can slaughter 15 million zombies. I think that's good for a movie.
Right.
I think even then you have to have like a human kind of side to it.
Mm-hmm.
I like just, it's one of the simplest premises you can actually say. What would happen after the rapture?
Yeah.
Right.
And it's not even like it's. Some people will think it's the rapture, but there's
Right.
literally one preacher who is played by Christopher Eccleston, who is everybody. Like, there's no bad performances in. Like, everybody is giving top notch performances. Shout out to Carrie Coon as Nora. Like, she is phenomenal in the entire show. But his whole thing is, like, in the beginning is he's trying to prove to people that this isn't the rapture. So he like digs up dirt on all the people who they call them returned, all the returned people, and is like showing like, no, they weren't good people. This wasn't the rapture. So don't worry about that. And he has like, it deals with like crises of faith and stuff like fate. Like, are you fated to do something? You know, are you a part of this big plan, or is it all just bullshit? You know, is it all coincidence? It takes you know, into account these like big heady ideas, but I think it does it in a very interesting way, and it's a very, very satisfying ending. Like I said, it's only 3 seasons. I don't think it's perfect. I do have like issues with it. It kind of drops off characters that you kind of start caring about, but you know, it is a phenomenal show. I've watched it several times in the last since it's been off. But yeah, so yeah, if you like dark show, and there's like some weird shit that happens in this, like really, especially in like the second season, like it gets super weird and kind of esoteric in some ways. But yeah, it's phenomenally acted, like a great story. You know, every season kind of changes up some things. But yeah, it's really, really interesting. So yeah.
Neat.
Well, Ethan's off searching for the secret to what meat in eggs is.
You really fucked his brain with that question.
Yeah. He kind of like you know, did the thing in the Doctor Strange movie where his like brain kind of caved in and then popped back out, and he's like, I gotta go find this out.
Which really sucks for me, because he was actually going to probably like have something to say about what I was actually going to talk about next.
Well, I will pretend to be Ethan, and I will say what he would have said.
Yeah.
No, you won't.
Try. Let's try.
But I will say this: it's going to be challenging for me to convince both of you to watch this. So, because of the format it is now, quickly, I have to mention one thing. So we like genre here.
Yeah.
We like science fiction.
I'm a genre slut.
We have many episodes attesting to that.
Right. We like horror. We like science fiction. You know, I would say like science fiction and horror are like tied for me, which is why sci-fi horror is like one of my favorite, like, you know, cross genres. However, this is not any of those things. But it's science fiction, but it's animated because it's an anime. Now listen here.
Okay.
This is a show that came out right before COVID, and it just ended the first part of the 3rd season. They're doing that with animes now. They're breaking up the seasons to make it like, you know, build you know, excitement.
That's the thing that frustrates me about anime nowadays.
Right. So that's not helping my case. But anyway,
We're supposed to say positive. Goddammit.
So I'm gonna give you the plot. Imagine you know this is based around high school kids. You know, it's an anime.
Okay.
And so you're all hanging out one day, and you know you are the protagonist. You are the main protagonist. You are the smartest kid in school, but you're not pretentious about it. But you are you do, you know, brag a little bit about how you're smart in certain situations. Not smarter than people, just smart enough to deal with certain situations. Your best friend comes up to you and go, "Hey, buddy, listen, the girl that I've been waiting to confess my love to her." He's like, "Go for it, dude. You've got it. Like, go for it." So your friend goes outside, and then immediately everybody in the world turns to stone.
I know what this is.
This is your attempt to keep going. Keep going.
This is my attempt.
Yeah. Just keep going.
Okay.
Just keep going.
All right. So
Stay positive, Jay.
So through natural occurrences in the environment, you break out of your stone shell, because it didn't kill everybody. It just put them in a hibernation mode with stone skin over them.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Basically.
Okay.
Is you know, Medusa but unmedusing, you know, kind of situation. And so you figure out through what happened to you how to depetrify people back and bring it back to, flesh, basically. And so you figure out that sometimes it's a bad idea to do that, though.
Yeah.
Because some people wake up and go, hey, wait a minute. Adults are probably why everything went to shit. We should not resurrect the adults. And so you have madmen breaking statues of people. It's like, oh, you realize you just murdered that guy, right? It's a show. It was in Shonen Jump as a manga in the weekly series, but it's not a shonen anime because shonen animes are fight animes, and I mostly hate those. This is a story around characters. It's around, like, not in a boring way, but education is in there at some points when, this guy, you have a modern person living in what 3,000 years has gone by the way, in a world that's basically a stone age world, with a modern mind trying to figure out how to best he can implement his knowledge into to figure out how to make things get back to where they were. And so the show's called Dr. Stone, and it's good character work, good acting. I like it. It's an anime. Jay, your rebuttal.
Hi, James McCarthy, professional contrarian. So,
Hi, my name is James McCarthy, and I only like 2 anime.
I like 2 animes. And one of those animes I'm mad about also, but we'll get into that here momentarily. I think one of my major problems, because I've actually put a lot of thought into this, because I have been concerned, is, do you just not like anime because of the culture that it has been produced from? And I like to think that that is not the reason. But I do believe, at the very least, I don't like it when I have a show that is going to go on for an absurd amount of time, because the amount of material for it has gone on for an absurd amount of time. Dragon Ball Z, like we talked last week about the last broadcast and pacing. Dragon Ball Z has worse pacing than the last broadcast. Jesus Christ. I wait 2 weeks before a punch gets landed in that. But also, it has gone on for forever.
Well, Dragon Ball has gone on forever.
Dragon Ball, but
Dragon Ball Z was
but it's an offshoot. Dragon Ball Z. Well, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT,
right?
All of these.
Dragon
things.
Ball Z was technically like 8 seasons.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And then this show keeps dragging on, whether you want to say it is one whole thing as Dragon Ball or just in the separate stuff. Then there's a thing called One Piece. Which the creator of it, after 1,100 fucking chapters, since now we can tell the real story.
Yeah.
What? No.
Yeah.
I think I will promise you, Jody, I will promise you this, and it's going to be on air and it will not be cut, I swear to God.
Okay.
When Dr. Stone ends. When it has an A and a Z, and I can follow that through, I will watch Dr. Stone.
Okay.
Until that day, I'm not investing a single drop of that, because even in non-anime, I have problems with that. It's called A Song of Ice and Fire, because there's still 2 books supposedly left, and we got one ending, and not a lot of people liked it, and we're still waiting on the second ending from the original author.
I have a rebuttal to your rebuttal.
Fire away.
There's only a handful of shows that thankfully are still going on, that have been going on for so long. Case Closed is one of them, which I have not watched that show, and I also have not.
Pieces of it. It could be just picked up and put down, because it's very
there's over 800
episodic.
There's over 800 episodes of Case Closed.
You just pick one and watch it, because it's just a thing.
Okay, because of trends and they change, they go up and down. Dragon Ball, when it came out, was a rarity as far as like a show that just kept going and going. Ranma 1/2 has I think 7 or 8 seasons.
Back when I got into anime, there was basically things like Dragon Ball Z and things like that, where they went on for long periods of time. And then you had like Gundam, where they would have long seasons, but it would be like a story that they were telling, and then there would be another thing in this same timeline. But then there were shows where it was, this show is 23 episodes.
And
this
that's
show
it.
is
Yeah.
13 episodes. This show is 50 episodes, and that is the entire arc of the story.
The thing that I like to base it off of is a recent one, and that is Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer's manga ended 2 years ago. There's only, I think, 5 seasons worth of material that they're going to use. They're not going to keep going after it's over. They are going to do spin-off shows much later based off of other characters later on or whatever. But for that core story, for that arc, it ends after 5 seasons. The same is going to probably happen for Dr. Stone, as well as many other shows, because once they get to an arc, there's one thing I have to agree with Jay on, and that is this real quick. Sword Art Online is an amazing episodic anime until after episode 12. You see, episode 12 was when the season ended for the first season. And then they continued after the main arc was over and the story
the main
was
premise
told.
of the show went on. That's my main issue. That's why I like most anime, and I think it was very recently that we did talk about this, because I will. You brought Dr. Stone up in a past episode. I'll say this. Our friend Gomez recommended me this like 3-4 years ago, and I still haven't got around. Like, it takes a lot for me to just get into a new anime nowadays, because I know it's not going to be that thing that I used to have, where it's just like I have tons and tons of full DVDs and Blu-rays and different things of episodes. I was just looking at these because I was looking through for things to pull from this, where this is 20 some odd episodes, and that is
it. Yeah.
Maybe there was a movie afterwards that added some things, and that is it. And they told a full story, and I don't, and with a lot of anime nowadays, especially like you were saying, the way that they separate it out, where this is season 2 and this is season 3 and this is season 3 part 2 and this is season 3,
right?
Like it frustrates me, and that keeps me from it. The premise of the show is interesting to me. It's just like the bar for me to watch a new anime and to be interested in it is very, very high nowadays. It's very hard for me to.
I've yet to see the final 2 seasons of Castlevania for that reason.
I was
for a similar reason. Excuse me, not for that reason, for a similar reason.
I was in the
Castlevania
same.
is very good, and I think it has a very good ending.
I was in the same mindset, Brady, till a few years back when I started taking chances on new shows like that. And
I might have to start doing that
and
again.
I got back into it. But not everything, though. I'm very, very particular on anime.
The problem is like I don't have the
time.
I don't have the time, but I don't have the energy to like sift through things, because like there's a lot of stuff that just looks exactly the same.
There is
where I will just see the thumbnail and my eyes just kind of gloss over, and I'm just like I don't feel like looking through this. But yeah, like I am not like, again, like I'm not an anti-anime person. It's just like it's fallen down. Like I have my things in my little pile at my house where I'm gonna rewatch these things. Right. And I really don't even have the time to do that. I was looking through and I was like, oh man, I need to rewatch this and this and this and this. But I will probably never get around to watching this. But like I'm. If you like the stuff, it's fine. Yeah.
I can tell you right now, also real quick, as a old school anime fan and as a fan of a few new shows, I could tell you, to older fans that haven't been watching anything recently, just because it's the most popular show doesn't mean it's the best. Demon Slayer is okay. It's just okay. It's not great. It's got shit in it that I don't like in anime, and it's okay. Yeah. That one would be one I'd be like the one show I recommend to everybody if they haven't watched anything, or if they do watch it, is Dr. Stone, just because it's so different. The story is very different because, spoiler, there are people that didn't get affected by the stone thing that happened. Like, you find that out in like episode 3 or 4 in the first season. So anyway, that's me.
So I've got one, and I kind of thought I know this is one that I'm not going to sell Jay on because he has watched this movie, and I thought honestly this was going to be one that he would bring up. But this is a movie that doesn't get near enough the respect that I think it does, and I think that's mostly because it's only on Amazon, and it's never been on like any other streaming service. Is never, because it was made by Amazon, and it's never been I don't think there's ever been a physical copy of this movie. It is a movie called The Vast of Night.
Whatever you're about to say, full cosign.
Yeah,
full cosign.
This is one I kind of wish that, Ethan can listen to this later and give us some.
There's so much about this movie that would appeal to both you and Ethan. I'm pointing at Jody for my apologies for vastly different reasons. I apologize. I couldn't think of another word there.
Yeah, it's a fairly low budget movie, but it's made very stylistically. It's this small town, I believe in the 50s, right, Jay?
I think it's definitely the 50s. It's like Arizona, wasn't it?
I think
so. Or it was either Arizona or California. I can't remember right now.
It's 50s. It's definitely like a small, like it's a movie about this small town and this radio operator and this DJ. And they come across
the switchboard operator,
yeah. This young girl who's in high school, and she's but she also does the switchboard operating.
New Mexico,
yeah, because it's and she comes across this weird sound or transmission or something, and she's friends with this slightly older guy who runs the radio station, and she plays it for him, and they start playing it over the radio, and they're trying to figure out what this is, and it's just them trying to figure things out, and then weird things start happening. But it's a very low budget movie, but it's shot so stylistically and so well, and the acting is so well, and they do. There's a couple of segments where they build this phenomenal building of tension, and it's just somebody telling a story, and you feel, and it's so, but it's still so tense because of the way that the things go about and all the weird stuff that starts happening. And there's really cool shots. There's this really cool shot that moves through the town, where they like put a camera, I believe, on like either an RC car or a radio or a go-kart or something like that. And
it's one of the best single shots I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah, it's a wonder.
Oh my God.
Where they move through the town at like a really quick pace. It's like a Raimi wonder, but like lower to the ground and faster.
Oh, okay.
It does so much to make you believe this place is real. Like keep going, man. Because my presentation will be oh my God. So, he can talk about it more lucidly than I can.
The acting is so good, and the main characters, they make you like care about them in a very short amount of time, and there's all this building of tension and what the fuck is going on, and it has this ambiguous ending where you're like, oh shit. But yeah, it's a movie that absolutely does not get enough love, and I think because it's just it's only on that one streaming service because they made the movie, and the algorithm doesn't show it very often.
I've never seen it pop up for me.
Yeah. It's
again, The Vast of Night.
When it first came out, it would show up quite a bit on those. Oh, this is the Amazon original and stuff like that. But now it doesn't show up. I haven't ever seen it again. But yeah, this is a movie that if you like if you're interested in like low budget movies, seeing somebody do a lot with a very small budget, this one does it. If you like that 1950s kind of it has kind of a it's New Mexico, so you can kind of guess what's going on, what ends up going on there, because like all these weird things, like I said, start happening. yeah, just if any of these things like tickle your fancy, I would definitely check this out because it, like really good performances, really like building just the most interesting ways of building tension that I've ever seen in a movie. I've never more been on the edge of my seat when just an old lady is telling a story in her living room.
Right.
It's fucking amazing just doing all that. And this is a guy, I think I need to do more research and see what this director guy has done. Cause I think he's either got a movie coming out or he's done stuff, but it's really, 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 really great. And if you like that kind of 1950s aesthetic, it definitely has that, the small town vibe. So yeah. Check that out if it's interesting. If any of this sounds
I'm gonna
interesting
try and
to
check
you.
it out as soon as I can.
Yeah, it's a really, really good movie. I need to make time to rewatch it.
I mentioned Babylon 5. This is another one of those things that I put on just because it's once I've seen it's very safe, it's very comfortable, but it's something that like just brings about like engenders good feelings in me.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, yeah.
I will like, if you go into it expecting like action packed stuff, like it's not that. It's more of a slow burn building of tension type movie. I do want to warn you of that. So don't expect, a whole lot of action or anything like that. But yeah, if you like those kind of more slow burn movies, doing a lot with a little, definitely check that out.
Cosign. I can't.
Yeah.
There's no more space on the contract to cosign on this. Yeah.
Yeah, this was one of the ones where when I was thinking of this, I was definitely like, this is one of the reasons that I want to do this, because this is it's one that nobody talks about, and it fell off. You can't like lists and stuff on the internet. You don't even hardly see it.
That's like Spine of Night. It had buzz when it came out, and then nobody fucking talks about it.
Yeah,
like,
that was kind of like a bottle rocket where it's
dude,
and then
that movie's fucking great.
Yeah, I need to watch it.
Yeah,
because I think it's on
it's on Shudder.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
So yeah, so that's my other one. I guess we can kind of call it there, wrap it there.
All righty, cool beats.
So yeah, if any of these things sounded interesting to you, check them out. Let us know. Hey, I checked this out and I liked it, or it sucked and you have terrible taste. You'd be wrong, but
yeah.
But yeah, everybody's
It's okay
entitled
to be
their
wrong.
opinion.
Just admit it.
Yeah. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, even if it's a terrible one.
Read Scythe while watching listening to the Misfits and watching Vast of Night.
Yeah.
I'm sure that your brain won't cave in on it.
Or while watching The Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Yeah. Oh, you snuck one in there real quick.
There you go.
That is a very good movie. I've seen that one. In fact, that's on my short list. Not short list. I'll probably just keep this list and just bring it out.
Use it whenever you need to use it. Utilize.
Can I have 1 minute to do one?
Yeah, sure.
Dear Zachary, a letter to his son about his father. It's the greatest documentary I've ever watched in my entire life. I will tell you nothing about it other than you should watch it. Yeah, there you go. That's literally it. Because
I think you mentioned it on the show
I've mentioned it before. I think I mentioned it on an old show a long time ago.
That might have been it.
But again, Dear Zachary, a letter to his son about his father.
It's heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
I will say that. Like, prepare yourself for that.
That's fair. That there should be that warning there.
Yeah.
I don't like talking about documentaries because I think anything you say about a documentary spoils it. And I think those need to be presented that way. That one in particular, again, it's the best documentary I've ever watched in my life.
Yeah, it definitely hits you like a ton of bricks. Yeah.
Had to be in a certain mood to watch something like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had to have time to watch like a cleansing comedy afterwards, or something like that.
Everybody's sneaking one in. I'm going to sneak one in
Go
too.
for it. You're the host. Do it. You ain't sneaking one in.
Speaking of anime that people need to watch, one of my favorite stories of all time is The Count of Monte Cristo. They made an anime version of this called Gankutsuo, The Count of Monte Cristo, and it is one of the absolute most
beautiful,
gorgeous and best versions of this because it's all told through Albert's viewpoint. So the Count is the villain through all of this. But the artwork is so phenomenal because the way it does is they put patterns say someone has a shirt, has like a jacket on, and that jacket will be a specific pattern. Now, the outlines of the person's arms and everything will move, but the pattern itself will not move. It's very hard to explain unless you see it. It's something that needs to be seen in motion,
right,
to really get it. But like the pattern will stay still, but like the outlines will move around the pattern.
I know what you're referring to.
But yeah, just watch some like the hair, their clothes and everything will be like this.
I want to say it's by the same. If it's not by the same company, it feels like it's by the same artist. It's like the Belladonna of Sadness. It's got that same art style.
I need to watch that.
It's so good.
Very hard to find. Very, very hard to find.
It was on. I think I saw it originally on Mubi. I think.
That's one that definitely might be on. But yeah, Gankutsuo. It's
I know we've spoken about this before, but that one always that movie always throws me off because of Tubi.
Yeah,
like it just does. I apologize.
Yeah, movie is the opposite of Tubi.
Yeah, it just is.
But yeah, it takes it moves it toward like a lot of the like not much. They don't change a whole lot from the show. Except towards the end, things change quite drastically. But it's also like futuristic, where like they go to Carnival on not to Italy, but on the moon. Like they go to Luna, and that's where they have Carnival. But yeah, it's very well done. Like I said, it's through the young boy's perspective. So he's seeing all of these things, and if you know the story, you're like, "Oh shit!" But the Count in that is like such a phenomenal character, especially if you've read the Count, read or watched anything about, like, if you know the story of the Count of Monte Cristo, like it's a very well done version of the character. He's kind of like a space vampire instead of just being just a really rich dude. But it's very, very interesting. It's very well done. It's one of my favorite anime, and it gets no love whatsoever. Like it's never talked about. But a lot of the stuff from that era, doesn't get talked about anymore.
Like 70s shit falls through the cracks. Like depending on what it is.
Gankutsuo is like the 2000s.
Right. But Belladonna is from 72.
Yeah.
But it's the same kind of art style, whatever.
Yeah.
And by the way, Belladonna and the Sadness is on something called Canopy. I don't know what that is.
I have no fucking idea.
Apparently, it's another streaming service.
Maybe it's just been like transcribed onto a giant tent.
Yeah, I know for like $100-something you can get a Blu-ray of it on eBay.
No, I'm good.
But yeah, I don't want to see it that bad.
Canopy is another Tubi. It's free. It's free with ads.
I don't know if that's a movie that I want to watch with ads. So yeah, so we snuck a few more in there. We kept this going a little bit longer.
Yes.
Trying to give Jay more work of what he has to cut around.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like I said, we wanted to bring some like more positive stuff to here. We wanted to talk about some stuff that we really like, that we're really interested in. That maybe you haven't heard of, or maybe maybe you've heard of it, but getting a little bit more granular into it to get some more specific things for you to try out. So yeah, if you liked any of these things, if you're interested in them, try them out and let us know if you liked them or not. Again, you can dislike them if you want. You'd be wrong, but everybody's entitled to their opinion, even if it's shit.
I don't want to get an angry letter, so I gotta explain something real quick. So from the little blurb, I thought Canopy was free. It's not. So Canopy is an on-demand streaming service platform for public and academic libraries, and if you're not part of that, you have to pay to watch.
Okay.
So it's one of those deals. So
we're still not sponsored by Tubi, but we're taking out Tubi's enemies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I will. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
So yeah, that's the end of our show, and we do some stuff at the end of the show, and that is we talk about our friends who also do stuff. So Jay, tell us about one of our friends.
All right. Do you want me to get one of the hard ones out of the way?
Yeah, get one of the hard ones out of the way. Save the easy ones for me.
Okay, Cameron Spanier, God Gaming of Emperor and Magnarp Gaming in Goshen, Mississippi. That's where we play our miniatures games and our board games and our card games. And
if you want to see Cameron sitting on the golden throne, where we have to sacrifice
1,000 Pokemon players,
1,000 Pokemon players
every day.
That only equals one real person.
Censored.
Nope, not cutting it. Not cutting it.
They don't listen to this shit. They don't listen to podcasts. They're not intelligent enough.
Yeah, they can't work technology.
Yeah, they smell funny, and they don't take showers. And they don't take showers.
They definitely don't take showers.
When they're asked eggs or meat, they're like, "What?" Because they think eggs make more Pokemon.
Pokemon, the new Yu-Gi-Oh players.
Yes. I may have to cut that one. That's
yeah, we're gonna lose that one person in the Philippines.
No, we're going to lose the guy from Haifa. Yu-Gi-Oh is very big on the West Bank.
Oh, my God.
Because it's kind of like Egypt. Anyway,
man.
Yu-Gi-Moto.
All right.
I've done my job now.
Where were we?
Pick somebody else.
So yeah, Whiskey and Wrestling. They're a podcast where they drink some whiskey and they talk about wrestling. Jason Holder and Michael Hill. They probably have some positive things to say about this week in wrestling and some negative things to say about this week in wrestling. If you want to listen to some people and say, why do these people even watch wrestling? Check them out because they might say, but they also do some like classic stuff too. So check them out on wherever podcasts are at to listen to.
You know who likes backyard wrestling? Pokemon players. They just love watching fight. They pretend that everybody's like Venusaur and that other one, Crobat.
I thought you were about to say, you know who likes like watching Pokemon the movie, and that would be Jared Hubbard and Kevin Shelton from Silence Your Cell Phones.
Massive Pokemon movie lovers.
And other movies too, like The Deer Hunter. Those two things go together, right?
Yeah. That's a good double feature. Pokemon the movie and then The Deer Hunter.
You decide which one to watch first.
Yeah.
Better. It's called the Ash Cut. You do the first half of the Pokemon movie, then you watch all of the Deer Hunter. Then you finish up with the last half, but you've got to be on Quaaludes.
Oh, Jesus! They don't even make.
I was
those
thinking
anymore.
more like the part.
Well, then you go out and make your own.
The parts of the Deer Hunter before Vietnam, you just cut that out and just watch the first part of the Pokemon movie, and then you cut immediately to them in Vietnam. That's a really good watch.
Kids, if you keep playing Russian roulette, you will lose.
Yeah.
But anyway,
unless you turn the gun on the other person. Spoilers for the Deer Hunter.
Kevin Shelton, Jared Hubbard, silence your cell phones. Why not? They're on the podcast.
Kevin Shelton, what? Yeah. That was the one that threw me off there. Like, what? I don't even know anymore.
I like how you're trying to copy my aloofness.
Yes, that's good.
My brain stopped working 5 minutes ago.
Imitated but not often duplicated.
Yeah.
You can't fake this aloofness. What'd you say?
Kevin Gallo, a.k.a. Ronin Rooster on Twitch, and Kevin Gallo on YouTube.
Your mouth did a really weird thing there.
What?
I did not like.
Okay.
You did this this drawl thing that I found very unsettling.
Did you think I was going through Bell's palsy?
I don't know.
Did you think I was turning into JR? Probably is.
Jesus Christ.
I may just completely cut that.
Retire, JR, please. If you're listening, if you just happen to pick this up.
Do you know who gets retired? The people going to Carousel.
Oh,
there
baby.
we go. Bring it back to Logan's Run. But
JR couldn't run.
Yeah.
Censored.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew that was coming down the pipe. Again, what you said stays in, but that part is just out for no good goddamn reason.
Oh man.
April Dugan also does twitching.
Yeah. Speaking of
I knew someone would feel the line and be good to go.
Oh man.
I think next week the omnibus gets invaded. Maybe I think from someplace from another podcast.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, you know better than I do. I don't remember. I didn't look at the document later.
I think it's.
So what are we doing?
Next week, another podcast invades us.
Oh, okay. We get another podcast.
We get invaded from within.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So it's like the alien monster where it just pops out of us.
Yeah.
Except it's worse. We're going to the Pine Barrens. No, I'm kidding. We're not going to the Pine Barrens.
The last broadcast.
Yeah.
Redux.
Either when you say the Pine Barrens, it's either the last broadcast or the Sopranos, and that ended badly for both parties. So
right. Well,
please.
or our party as well. Yes, we shall.
We need the Russian cut of the last broadcast where it's the Russian.
Yeah,
from the
that would be
Sopranos.
really funny if. Yeah. That would be really funny and prescient if it turned out to be the Russian.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
We'll be traveling through Fear next week, I believe. Fear on the omnibus.
Fearology on the omnibus.
Oh yeah, shit. That is it.
that is it. And
your abject yet somehow hopeful surprise really got me there. I appreciate that.
Cool protagonist and antagonist is the theme.
Ooh.
So cool villains, cool heroes in horror movies. You know.
Okay.
We like that.
Okay.
So that's what we'll be.
You got any required watching for us or
no?
Oh, okay.
I will say that I did.
We're just gonna free ball it.
We're gonna free ball.
I recently released an episode on the podcast called the Uncanny Valley of the Dolls, where I talked about dolls and mannequins and things of the like in horror. Yeah.
The well-known horror movie Mannequin.
Yeah.
Was a nightmare.
There is a short.
We can build this dream together, saving songs forever. Nothing's gonna stop us
We
now.
can cut it here. It's just fine.
Okay.
I'll
Censored.
Starship. Yeah.
Censored.
Why does this end with
Censored.
Because you
the
started
fuck?
singing Starship's never gonna stop us
that
now.
doesn't necessarily go to
Censored.
He fucked every
Censored.
to where they
How
had
did
to
this
change
fall?
Censored.
3 times.
This one isn't my fault.
How am I not the bad guy here? What the fuck?
That is weird.
Ask us for our
That is
name.
weird. Yeah,
Ask us for our names and we can get out.
Yeah. So yeah, that's us. We're clearly going out of our minds.
Yep.
As usual. So yeah, join us next week for our next episode where Fearology takes over Travelers on the Omnibus. And that's it for us. My name is Brady Davis.
Jody Kite.
James McCarthy, and I'm Ethan Skinner. Eggs on meat! Eggs on meat! Eggs on meat!